This is Illo Talk. I am Cory Kerr, and welcome to the intro video of 100 Days of Animation. Where I spend a minimum of 30 minutes every day, no matter what is going on, working on my animated short film. My plan is to complete, start to finish, my animated short film within 100 days. To some of you, that seems like tons of time. To others of you, you've actually done animation before, and you know that that's a fairly lofty, to say the least, goal, and pretty ambitious. Some of the obstacles that I'm going to come up against during this thing is that I have never actually animated anything before. So there's that. Also, I've never used After Effects, so I'm learning it as I go. I do have a pretty heavy background in Photoshop and Illustrator, so I've got that going for me. But I will be sharing kind of what I'm learning, as well as little tidbits in history and kind of things that are just going on in my life. So if you would like to follow along on my journey, then you should subscribe. And I think you can get notified in addition to subscribing and stuff. It's going to be on YouTube. I'll probably post it on Twitter as well. But anyway, so my short film is about the rise of this dictator. It's this colony of insects, but it's not like cutesy like A Bug's Life or anything. It's a little grim, a little darker. And anyway, it's about the rise of this dictator and some of the choices that the citizens have to make because of what's going on in their government. And it'll be interesting. I like the idea of it. I think it's a good story. So years ago, probably 3 or 4 years ago now, I decided that I want to learn how to draw. And so to do that, I started a comic. And I did 60 pages of that comic. I tried to do a page a week for everything from thumbnailing, penciling, inking, flatting, coloring, lettering, and then all of the promoting social media stuff, as well as the website and all of that, all by myself. And in that time, I made a really terrible comic. It was bad. But I did learn how to draw, or at least I got my feet wet in drawing. And so whenever I try to learn something new, I try to take on a project. Now, I plan on this project being good. But I want to learn how to animate. I want to learn how to make things move. I want to learn how to edit and time things and things like that. So I've always been interested in animation and cartoons, but as of yet, I've been putting off learning it. So this is my project so that I can learn it. And it kind of started through, last year I started listening to these lectures. I listened to a lot of audiobooks while I draw and things like that. Last year I started listening to these lectures on ancient Greece and Rome and kind of the rise and fall of the Spartan nation and the Athenians, and then Rome, rise and fall. And then I listened to the history of Egypt, ancient Egypt. And then Hamilton came out, and I got super excited about that. And I listened to the biography by Ron Chernov on Hamilton. And I also listened to Team of Rivals, which is the Abe Lincoln biography, which is super good. Super good. And during all that, I started thinking, I should get into this a little bit more and see what was going on in the rest of the world. And so then I listened to a series of lectures about the French Revolution. Les Mis and all that kind of tie into that. It was kind of interesting. And a bunch of historical fiction on kind of what it was like to be in the British Navy, fighting the Napoleonic Wars, and lots of things like that. I've read about 8 of those books. So then I just started today listening to The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich. It's a book about Hitler and his rise to power. Now, all of this kind of coincides with a lot of what's going on today, which is terrifying and scary. And while I'm not depicting any one individual person that's alive right now, I have seen patterns that have arisen throughout history and they're kind of interesting. And so the theme, the armature of my story is kind of based around how democracies fall and what happens around dictator rising to power and some of the choices that people have to make in that situation. Because history repeats itself if we don't learn from it. And that's kind of an interesting thing. So, all in all, I think I've listened to roughly 120 hours on ancient Greece, over 40 hours on Egypt. And I'm trying to think, that Lincoln book is a 60-hour book. The Chernov book on Hamilton is fairly long. This book on Hitler is about 58 hours. And so hundreds of hours, we'll call it research. It's really just interesting. Hundreds of hours of research have gone into these themes that I'm trying to depict in this. In addition to that, I am also going to be teaching about like what I'm learning in After Effects and things as I go. So I've pre-recorded. I've been doing this for a few weeks now, and so I have kind of a queue of videos, and I will be launching one of those every day, and I'm not going to miss a day. I might combine a day or two here or there, but yeah, so you're going to see 100 days of what it's like, whether I succeed or fail, to try to make your first animated short by yourself. And so there are days that I've had already that you spend hours and you have to delete everything and start from scratch, and it's awful, and I hate it. And so it's kind of interesting though. So jump in, and I'm either going to have an animated short film by the end of this, or you'll watch me crash and burn miserably. Either way, I'm going to learn some stuff and you guys will be entertained. So I would love to connect with you guys on social media, and you can always find me at corykerr.com, CORYKERR.com. You can find me on Twitter at Cory Kerr, and on Instagram at Cory R. Kerr. And at any point in time, if you're watching this, even years in the future, and I'm already done, and my animated short film is out there, and it's streaming on Netflix, and tens of people have watched it, then you can still leave a comment, and I'm going to try to connect. I will be learning this stuff as I go. And so a lot of the tutorials that are out there right now are kind of assuming that you know a lot already. And that's kind of frustrating. And so there have been hours and hours and hours spent of me just watching tutorial videos trying to figure out what the crap everybody's talking about. And so I have about 45 videos that I've created over 4 hours of content that'll take you from not knowing anything about Adobe Illustrator to knowing it really well. And I use those in a class that I teach at a university. And you're welcome to watch those. But what I'm going to really do is, if you know Adobe Illustrator or Photoshop, I am going to try to relate how After Effects works to Photoshop and Illustrator. And so I think that designers and illustrators might find this series interesting. Now, I'll probably do a more instructional set after this 100 days, but I don't have time to do it during. So anyway, thanks for watching. Leave me a comment. Follow me on social media. I'd love to connect with you guys. And I hope you enjoy my success and or crash and burn failure.